Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with a strange feeling in your chest, as if someone had called you, but no one was there? Well, know that you may be part of a rare and silent group, the chosen 144,000. This is not religion, nor is it a conspiracy theory. It's real. It is spiritual. And the invisible ritual is happening now, while the world sleeps. Ignoring this can be the biggest mistake of your life. There is a spiritual war going on, and it is not in the headlines. It is between the lines of what you feel, in dreams that seem too real, in coincidences that repeat themselves as hidden spiritual signs. All of this is not accidental, it is the spiritual activation beginning. Divine silence is not absence. It is a calling. And if you feel that call at night, you have already been summoned. You're not waking up at dawn by chance. It is being pulled by a specific spiritual frequency. A divine code that operates outside of time, beyond what the mind understands. While many are distracted, the chosen ones live a spiritual mission that began well before this body. And believe me, the moment of activation can happen today, on any night, like this. This may seem heavy, but the payoff is immense: clarity, awakened spiritual gifts, absurd synchronicity, deep peace. You begin to see what no one sees and feel what no one feels. But it has a price: to get out of the ordinary, the comfortable. Because those who have been activated can no longer pretend that they have not been. From now on, you either take on your mission, or continue to live a lie. If you felt it in any way, comment 144 here in the comments. If this resonates with you, it's because it's already started. And if you haven't felt it yet, get ready. Because the night of activation can be today. There are people who wake up between 3 and 4 in the morning thinking it was just a nightmare or stubborn insomnia. But the 144,000 chosen know, deep down, that it is no coincidence. This hour carries a specific spiritual frequency, as if a divine code echoed in the silence of the early morning. It is the invisible call, the invisible ritual in full swing while the rest of the world is still asleep. It is not the body that decides to wake up, it is the soul that responds. Some describe this hour as strangely alive. The room seems denser, the air more charged with something that cannot be explained. You look at the ceiling and feel like there's more than darkness there, there's a spiritual mission trying to communicate. It is the divine silence, which screams from within. An awakening at night is not about interrupted rest, but about an ongoing spiritual activation. Others report hearing their own name being called in the middle of the night, even with no one around. A breeze that passes where there is no open window. An intense thought about something bigger that takes over. These are all hidden spiritual signs, encrypted codes that the 144,000 recognize without knowing how. As if they were being pulled into an invisible spiritual war, and even without seeing their enemies, they already feel that they are on the field. This nocturnal impulse is like a cosmic alarm clock. It doesn't want you to just wake up, it wants you to notice. That is why many, after waking up at this time, can no longer sleep. The heart races, the mind races, and the body understands that something is different. At this time, writing down whatever comes to mind, meditating, or simply listening in silence can be more powerful than any memorized prayer. The invisible call wants subtle action, not noise. And so, without warning, without a clear message or light flashing in the sky, the process begins. Something inside you says that this night was not ordinary. And it really wasn't. It's just that when the body feels it before the mind understands it, the transformation is already underway, even if you don't realize it. Even before any logical explanation emerges, the body already begins to emit signals. It is as if the energy field vibrates at another spiritual frequency and the physical is the first to react. Sudden chills, watery eyes for no reason, a tingling in the hands or feet, all these are alerts. The 144,000 are not getting sick or insane, are in the process of spiritual activation. It is as if an unknown energy is triggering forgotten commands. These sensations often appear in moments of total tranquility. You are sitting, seemingly at peace, and then you feel a hot rush in your chest, a slight dizziness, or a pressure on your forehead. It is the presence of God adjusting the sensors of your body to capture what is beyond the visible. An invisible ritual begins at this very moment, and there is no way to deactivate it. The body has already come into contact with the divine code. Sometimes the body responds with mild tremors, a shiver that runs down the spine for no apparent reason. Others describe a subtle flutter in the stomach or an internal crack in the ear, as if something has been activated. And you know the most curious? These symptoms go unnoticed by those who are not in tune. Only the chosen ones realize, the 144,000, why their bodies are attuned to the spiritual mission. They live the spiritual war in the field of the invisible. To deal with these signs, it is best not to resist. Taking a deep breath, closing your eyes and listening to your own body helps. It is not time to medicate or be scared, but to welcome. Presence meditations, light stretches, or even a warm bath can help the body adapt to the new vibration. Awakening at night is not a mistake of sleep, it is a hit of the spirit. And while the body tries to translate what it is feeling, the mind begins to dream in a different way. As if dreams ceased to be random and started to have purpose. And that's when something magical starts to happen, in the dream world. Dreaming isn't always just a random jumble of images of the day. For the 144,000, dreams become secret meetings, sacred encounters with chosen others. It is in this state that many report being in spiritual councils, healing missions, or symbolic battles. The rational mind tries to dismiss it as fantasy, but the heart knows, this was not just a dream. It is part of the invisible ritual that takes place while the body rests. These encounters are often vivid, with details that are almost impossible to forget. Cities that do not exist on earth, clear dialogues with beings of light, feelings of accomplishment when waking up. This is spiritual activation happening on the etheric plane. The invisible call sometimes comes through a dream where you receive a cryptic message, a task, or even a warning. And deep down, something inside you understands every symbol without having to translate. Many wake up with tears in their eyes or with a light chest, as if they had left something important behind. Others have the feeling that they have worked all night, as if they have crossed dimensions. The spiritual warfare continues even while the body sleeps, and the 144,000 never really stop acting. When you feel that that dream was more real than reality, don't doubt it, because it was. It was an ongoing spiritual mission. If you want to prepare for these night trips, it is worth creating a ritual before bed. Low light, silence, a clear intention, I am available for whatever the divine wants to show. Having a notebook next to your bed to write down what to remember is also an excellent step. Because, you see, the divine code does not speak in words, it reveals itself in symbols, in sensations, in images that only you can decipher. The activation happens there, in the invisible. And sometimes, when you wake up, you don't remember anything. But he does. It feels as if something has happened. And, in fact, it happened. Because even without seeing any light, some touches can only be felt from the inside. There are times when nothing around has changed, but inside, everything is different. You're sitting there, and suddenly you feel a light inside your chest, but there's no light bulb on. It is a warming presence, a subtle sign that spiritual activation is underway. The 144,000 don't need to see with their eyes to know. They feel it. It is as if the spiritual frequency of the environment changes, silently. The breeze that enters without an open window. The sudden heat on the forehead. The shiver that appears just from standing still. These are all hidden spiritual signs. God's presence does not come with fanfare or burst of lights, it manifests itself as a touch that only the Spirit recognizes. The invisible ritual reveals itself in the subtlest details, and those who are attentive do not need external proof. Just feel. One of the most striking moments is when this divine touch comes as an inner hug. You feel a tightness in your heart, but it's from love, not pain. It's as if something said, "I'm here, you're not alone." This happens anywhere, inside the bus, in a bank queue, even in the bathroom. Because the divine does not wait for the physical temple, it acts on the frequency that resonates within the chosen ones. If you want to connect more with these presences, try muting for a few minutes a day. No memorized prayers or long speeches. Only silence. Put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath, and say internally, "I'm ready to feel what the eyes don't see." Sometimes, this is how the invisible call presents itself. And you start to recognize when it arrives, even if no one else notices. And when all of this starts to make sense, when you realize that you are being prepared, the silence deepens. But not as an absence, as a proof. A test. A moment when everything seems to stop, and the sky, mysteriously, falls silent. Suddenly, everything falls silent. That intense spiritual contact that seemed constant just disappears. Nothing else happens. You seek, pray, beg, and the sky seems mute. It is divine silence. But that's the test, the most challenging for the 144,000. Because the true invisible ritual requires faith without confirmation. It is in this vacuum that one reveals who really trusts the divine code. Many think they have been abandoned. But they were not. They are being tested. As in a silent spiritual war, where the enemy is doubt. It's easy to believe when there are spiritual signs hidden everywhere. It is difficult to keep the spiritual mission alive when everything seems to be at a standstill. But that's where the awakening at night continues, even without flashes of light or sensation in the body. Imagine a soldier on a mission who suddenly loses contact with the command. He does not abandon the post. He stands his ground, confident that he is part of something bigger. It is exactly like that with the chosen ones. In this night of activation without answers, what sustains is the inner vibration. This is when the heart, in silence, continues to emit the correct spiritual frequency, even without return. Whoever crosses this void without losing faith, is ready. Because this pause is not punishment, it is preparation. It is in this interval that the soul is strengthened, like a muscle that grows at rest. If you are going through this silence, know, it is part of the ritual. Take a deep breath, trust the invisible, and keep walking. The invisible call is still echoing. Even if in silence. And when that silence finally breaks, it doesn't come back like it used to. It returns as something deeper, more intimate. Because now what pulsates, it does not come from the mind. It comes from somewhere else. The mind tries to understand, rationalize, organize everything in little boxes. But the divine code was not made for the mind. It vibrates in the heart. Literally. The 144,000 carry a spiritual frequency that pulsates like a secret password, invisible to the world, but unmistakable to the sky. The invisible ritual takes place there, in the silence of the chest, where no logic enters. Only presence, only vibration. This vibration is not activated with memorized words. It doesn't matter how many times you repeat a prayer if your heart is empty. What activates is the true intention, the feeling that vibrates without needing to be explained. It's that moment when you hear a song and feel like crying, without knowing why. That's where the code lives. This is how God's presence responds, in the language that only the heart understands. Some ask, how do I know if I have been chosen? The answer is simple, you feel it. There is no external ritual, there is no certificate. You just know. Like an old memory that resurfaces without warning. And when that feeling appears, it changes you. Priorities change, relationships change, the way you see life changes. This is spiritual activation happening from the inside out. To tune into this frequency, stop looking outside and start listening inside. Walk barefoot, hug a tree, breathe slowly, be silent with your hand on your heart. Simple as that. This is not nonsense, it is ancient spiritual technology. The invisible call never comes from the noise, it comes from the vibration that only the heart at peace can capture. And the more you silence, the more you listen. And then, in an ordinary instant, without warning or external preparation, something opens up inside you. Something new. Something profound. As if heaven had unlocked a door that no one knew existed. It is on any given day, on an apparently ordinary night, that everything changes. No lightning, no thunder, no audience. Suddenly, something opens up inside. It is not a click in the mind, it is a portal in the spirit. The 144,000 feel when spiritual activation reaches a new level. There is no way to predict or prepare in the conventional way. It is as if the sky, hitherto silent, said, now. This moment does not need a spectacle. Sometimes it happens washing dishes, driving, or stopped in traffic. Everything is normal around you, but inside you, a fire ignites. An absurd peace and an urgency at the same time. It is the invisible ritual revealing itself, without asking permission. The invisible call intensifies, as if the entire universe is whispering his name. You feel like you've come home, even without leaving where you are. It's hard to explain to someone who has never been through this. Because it seems like nothing happened, but you know everything has changed. The divine code has been activated. And in a way that you don't fully understand, the spiritual mission is now clear. Not in words, but in direction. On impulse. Absolutely. It's like a new beat inside the chest. Something that was once subtle, now pulses with force. The spiritual frequency becomes your new GPS, your silent radar. Things that once interested you lose their luster. You move away from what no longer makes sense, even without explanations. And the most magical thing, you start to attract other people who have also been activated. The tribe of 144,000 begins to gather. And here comes the question, what now? What to do with all this? Because when you go through the activation, there is no way to go back. And soon you realize that the mission begins exactly at this point. After activation, nothing goes back to the same as before. The vision broadens, literally. You begin to notice subtle patterns, energies in commonplaces, intentions hidden in people's words. It's as if I had changed lenses. The 144,000 enter a new level of consciousness, a kind of spiritual upgrade. The invisible ritual has passed, but now, true spiritual mission begins. Spiritual gifts begin to manifest effortlessly. Sharp intuition, revealing dreams, spontaneous healings, even silent communication with people who are far away. And no, this is not an invention. It is part of the programming that was dormant and has now been reactivated. God's presence becomes more constant, more tangible. It's no longer just faith, it's experience. You start to feel when you should or shouldn't go into a place. When a person is with dense energy. When something will happen before it even happens. It is as if you have become a walking spiritual antenna. But with that comes responsibility. The invisible call requires conscious action. The 144,000 were not activated just to feel. They were activated to serve, protect, and transform. Therefore, it is common for some people to disappear from their lives after this process. And that's okay. The universe clears the way for you to go light. Those who continue to be by his side are also on mission. And everything starts to flow almost magically. Do you know those absurd coincidences? Now they become routine. The hidden spiritual signs become almost daily, just pay attention. But even with this new clarity, a question always arises, and now, what do I do with all this? The answer does not come from outside. It beats in the heart. And if you listen carefully, you will realize that the journey is just beginning. Now that you know what really goes on behind the invisible ritual, the question that remains is, what are you going to do with it? Will you continue to ignore the signs? Or will you allow yourself to feel what the world insists on hiding? Remember, those who wake up in the middle of the night with this call are not losing sleep. He is being summoned. And ignoring this call can be costly. What if all that you felt to this day, the goosebumps, the intense dreams, the eerie silence, wasn't a coincidence? What if it was God's presence trying to wake you up from a collective slumber? What would you do with this knowledge? Its activation has already begun. Now, it is up to you to accept the mission or go back to sleep spiritually. The world doesn't need any more distracted people. It needs the 144,000 awake, conscious, ready to act. Because this spiritual warfare will not be won with shouting, but with frequency, presence, and silent action. So I ask you, what still holds you back in the old world? What still prevents your heart from vibrating in the divine code? Stop for a moment. Silence. Put your hand on your chest and listen. Feel what it is saying inside you. If this content touched you, woke you up, or just made you question, so it was worth it. And if you want to continue this journey of discovery, growth, and revelation, you already know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications and comment below, I hear the call. Let's keep learning together, because this, my friend, it's just the beginning.